Joining me right now is UK International Trade Secretary Dr. Liam Fox. Good to see you, sir. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
What do you want to see? What would be victory for both sides? What do you hope to see coming out of this EU meeting today with Mr. Juncker and President Trump?
Well, we'd like a de-escalation of the old tariff issues, particularly on steel and aluminium. But while Britain's still in the European Union, of course, we follow EU policy. What my visit is really looking at is what we do, as you correctly say, post our exit from the European Union. And when you look at our relationship with the United States, we have $1 trillion invested in one another's economies. UK companies employ 1 million American workers here. US companies employ 1 million UK workers in the UK. How do we take that relationship on both trade and investment, two of the world's top, most innovative, most developed economies, and how do we start to shape a pathway into the global economy of the future? That's the challenge and the real opportunity that we have as we leave the European Union.
And I know that President Trump and Theresa May want to make something work. You're here in Washington today talking to counterparts about trade after the UK leaves the EU, but you're also getting the pulse of the British people on this issue. Why do you see that is one of the key elements here?
Well, we know from recent polling that well over 60% of the people in the United Kingdom want a trade agreement with the United States. They see the United States as far and away our most important ally. And here I think is the rub, that it's not just about, whether we can get an extra 0.5% on our exports or whatever. There's a strategic element to our trading relationship. It fits in that wider global narrative that we need to have. We're countries that believe and have long believed in an open global trading system. We helped set up what is the World Trade Organization. But if we're going to have a free trade system, rules need to be enforced and countries need to behave like market economies. And although we have our differences over the 232, for example, route for dealing with Chinese excessive production of steel, we accept that it's a problem, and we accept that there's a problem with forced transfer of technology. There's a problem with lack of market access, particularly in the service sector. These things do have to be dealt with.
Right. So walk us through your timeline in terms of Britain leaving the EU and then doing a deal with the U.S. on trade. What does the next year and a half look like?
Well, we know that when we leave the European Union formally on the 29th of March next year, we are then able to negotiate our trade agreements for ourselves. Knowing that timetable, and if you read it backwards, and the USTR's got to give Congress 90 days notice, that means that it has to be done before Christmas, really. That means that we've got to finish our discussion on a mandate internally by the end of October. That meant we had to begin our public consultation on a potential free trade agreement last week, which we did last Friday in the UK. So we've now begun the public consultation for 14 weeks. We'll take a look at that. We'll decide what we think the level of ambition should be. And then, of course, we'll have greater clarity about what our final relationship with the European Union is going to be. That's rather dependent on the European Union at the moment and what I would describe as whether they want there to be a people's Brexit or a bureaucrat's Brexit. Is it about the prosperity and the economies of Europe, or is it about the political theology of the Commission?
Yeah, the President has been tweeting about this, and about an hour ago he said this: when you have people sniping at your heels during a negotiation, it will only take longer to make a deal, and the deal will never be as good as it could have been with unity. Negotiations are going really well. Be cool. The end result will be worth it. Dr. Fox, what would be the best end result in your opinion?
Well, we would like to see a comprehensive free trade agreement with the United States. We've begun our discussions also with Australia and New Zealand, and we've begun looking to see whether it would be possible for the UK to accede to the CPTPP agreement. We believe that we need global trade liberalisation. We all come to it from a slightly different perspective, but as we leave the European Union, we want to make it clear that we are an outward-looking, open, free-trading country, and we're looking to have agreements with countries that share our strategic vision.
So would Britain agree to no tariffs, no subsidies, as President Trump suggested?
Well, we would have an ability to do that, which we don't at the present time. And if you take, for example, car tariffs at the present, where there's a differential between the tariffs applied to European cars coming to the States and American cars coming to Europe, we would have the ability to unilaterally make that choice for ourselves. But of course, it would be dependent on the US making its own adjustments to tariffs on things like light trucks, where we face a 25% tariff coming into the US. So that's what agreements are about. And if we're able to reach a position that's of mutual advantage, and I'm speaking at the Heritage Foundation this morning and pointing out that from Adam Smith onwards, the whole point of trade is mutual benefit. If we can achieve that mutual benefit in a way that also helps liberalise the global trading environment and helps us, if you like, write the rules for that global economy of the future, it's not just an economic, but it's a strategic gain for both of us.
Right, and that strategic gain obviously, hopefully, comes at some point soon, sooner rather than later. But we are in a period right now of uncertainty where we're not sure where this goes. You've got a handful of companies this morning when they give guidance saying, well, we're expecting higher commodities expenses. You know, we're not sure where the trade issues are going. So what kind of an impact does this uncertainty period have, do you think, in the broader economic growth story?
I wish I had a dollar for every time I've done an interview and people have said it's a very uncertain period just now. I must have missed the period of certainty that's gone past us. Yes, there are a lot of potential disruptions out there. There are problems inside the European Union, of course, some tensions, for example, with the new Italian government. We've got the wider issue of what's happening in global tariffs. That all needs to be resolved. But I think that the best way to look at that is for us all to go back to first principles and recognise that having an open trading system has not only been the means by which we've taken 1 billion people out of abject poverty globally, but trade is a means to spreading prosperity, which provides better political cohesion and political stability, and that's the building block of our global security. So countries like the United States and the UK, who have always had this strong belief that an open trading system isn't just an end in itself, but is actually, in the end, a means of underpinning our own security and stability. We need to get those arguments out there and make them even more loudly than we've done in the past.
What do you think Mr. Juncker wants from the president today?
Well, that's unclear, and I've not been party to those discussions. Clearly, they will want to see a de-escalation of the tariff issues, but there are fundamental differences of opinion across Europe and between Europe and the United States. It's not immediately apparent to see how that can be done, but it's certainly true that it's in the interest of all of us to de-escalate the current tension, and it's in the interest of all of us to move by whatever means to a more open, free and liberal trading environment that in the long term will be to the advantage of those economies that are the more innovative and the more creative, which I would say plays extremely well to the natural strengths of the US and the United Kingdom.
Real quick, Dr. Fox, do you think that you will be able to do in the UK a deal with the European Union post-Brexit?
Well, we think that we've made a very reasonable offer to the European Union, and it will really be determined now by whether the decision itself is made by the European Commission and the bureaucracy of Brussels, or whether it's made by the leaders of the EU 27, who, let's face it, unlike the Commission, need to have trade and prosperity and jobs because they have to be re-elected. So is this going to be, as I say, the people's Brexit or the bureaucrats' Brexit? That is the choice that Europe now has to make.
All right, well, we'll be watching the developments. Dr. Liam Fox, it's good to see you, sir. Thanks so much. We will see you soon.